What's going down, everybody? My name is Bryce. Welcome to the channel. Today I watched The Invitation. It is a 2015 film directed by Karyn Kusama. This is on Netflix, by the way, if any of you guys want to check it out. I really recommend. This was a really good movie, and I want to say a year ago I watched I watched like a little bit of it, and I didn't really remember much of it. So I figured it was okay to just pretty much start over and just it would be the same as if I watched it for the first time. This is already like if I sat down and got a constructed top 20 list, I feel like I would put this in it. That's just how much I enjoyed this movie, and I don't know why I didn't watch it the full way through the first time. But basically, it stars Logan Marshall Green, who plays Will. He's the main character. Will gets a random invitation from his ex-wife to a dinner party / reunion with a bunch of his friends who he hasn't seen in 2 years. And upon his arrival, he realizes that the trauma he and his wife experienced in the past never went away and is in a way still haunting him to this very day, and haunting everyone for that matter. Basically, the main character, Will, and his wife lived in his house, and years ago, their son was killed. The movie never really specifically or like literally says that this is how the kid died. I think he drowned, because there's a scene where there's actually a lot of scenes where he like spaces out and he's just staring at something in the house that brings back a memory, and he was staring at like the pool or like a little lake or something, and then he got a flashback of his son's 5th birthday party, the day he died. So, as you can guess, it's very awkward. The whole dynamic of him not only seeing his ex-wife for the first time in 2 years, he has a girlfriend now. She also goes along, and it's just it kind of spirals into a nightmare. And I really like these kind of movies of, it starts out as, you know, a certain event, and just as time goes on, weird things start to happen. Will starts to realize that this isn't right. For example, a couple examples. At one point, he sees his ex-wife's like current husband lock the door and take the key and like put the key away, and he thinks that's suspicious because it's like, you know, why is he locking the doors when, you know, this is a party? Like, then like every time someone has to run in and out or anything, like they're gonna have to ask him. Every time there's a visitor that comes up to the door whenever they are all hanging out, sorry, not Will, his ex-wife's name is Eden. Her husband, for the life of me, I can't remember what his name is. He has to go check and basically like make sure that this person is supposed to. It's very weird, very strange. All the doors, not all the doors, all the windows in the house have like bars on them. So it's just like the house seems to be built as if they want to make sure no one leaves. They're trying to trap everyone in there, and it seems as if they finally got everyone to play in their little game. Another strange thing of this about this is Will realizes that it's not just their group of friends and his ex and their new spouses. It's also 2 random people that he's never seen before, and off the bat they act very strange. They apparently met them in Mexico, which is where they had been for the last 2 years, and Will's just picking up on every little detail. He's putting two and two together, and eventually he snaps. And I'm trying to start this off by a review that doesn't give away any spoilers, and then towards the end I'll just give I'll talk about the spoilers too, just in case anybody watches this before seeing it, if they plan on seeing it. So, to put it lightly, this is a awkward situation that the main character is rightfully suspicious going into, it spirals into a nightmare. And it's one of those movies that it starts out, and as time goes on, there's no like sharp I don't know how, there's no sharp like rising action, climax, falling action. Like the whole movie just seems to be on a slow like upward tick. Like just every little thing that keeps happening is just building and building. It's a slow burn, but once it gets to the end, there's a lot of payoff, and I think it's great. It's also it is a horror movie, but it has some thriller elements. At the end, there's like one of those survival kind of moments where everyone is trying to survive, and yeah, so I really enjoy this movie, and without spoiling anything yet, I would put it as, imagine a family reunion, pretty much, sort of, kind of, gone wrong due to underlying evil, if that makes any sense to you guys. So I also like to grade on a scale based on 1 to 5. I feel like 1 to 10 is too much gray area. So I feel like, 1 being, not a good movie at all, way more negatives than positives. 2, below average, not really that great, but there is something good about it. 3, very run-of-the-mill, very average. Good things, bad things, just kind of eh. 4, above average, a solid movie, a lot of good, but there is also some bad. 5 being great, amazing, very few things wrong with it. And I would say overall, I would give this movie a high 4. If you want to get technical, maybe like a 4.8. Just for the simple fact that the cinematography is, I love it, in my opinion. It's a very visually appealing movie. Not and like for me too, it's not just about how good your camera looks, lighting and all of that. Of course, that's really important, but that's only half of it. I think also you want to be creative, innovative, and different in the way that you position your camera. You don't want shots of just, okay, people are talking, we have the camera on this person, okay, they after they say something, switch it to this person. Okay, it's like, well, you see that in every movie, every TV show known to man. But something that I like about this movie is there are a couple of shots where they're very unorthodox, as in it will be I don't know how to put this. Well, for one, there is a shot of when they're at like dinner in the end. The ex-wife, Eden, she is like drinking wine, and the camera like is like overhead, and it's kind of like an upside down view. That's interesting. Also, like, this is another thing now that I just remember now. In the very first scene, I mean like the first 5 minutes of the movie, Will and his current girlfriend, Kira, are driving to the dinner party, and out of the window they show like the scenery and everything, and it's doing this like stop motion kind of like switching kind of thing. I really enjoyed that. So I really like the camera work in this movie. I think the acting was great. I think Eden, who's played by Tammy Blanchard, she was very believable. I've never met anyone that I know of that's in a cult, but I feel like if I met someone who joined a cult after having a traumatic experience, that's exactly how that person would act. So she was very believable in that role, and I was a huge fan of Will too. So the acting was great. I think the story was very interesting, and I would say overall it's just a very good solid movie. There's not too much going on, but at the same time, there is a lot of thought and creativity put into it. It's not a brainless movie in any stretch of the imagination, but at the same time, it is a movie that you can just put on and enjoy. So, yeah, I would say I would give it a 4 out of 5. And if you were planning on watching this, you don't want any spoilers, you can click off of this now, because I'm about to just talk about some spoilers real quick. So, as far as the spoilers go, there's not a whole lot to spoil, I feel like. I mentioned that it is a cult earlier, and that's kind of spoiling it. Not really, because I feel like if you watch the trailer or if you read the bio for the movie, I feel like you know, or you at least think that's what it is, or there's something. So the fact that it's a cult isn't really giving up a whole lot. Also, it's funny because I think 2 or 3 different times before you actually find out that Eden, her current new husband, and these 2 random strangers that they're friends with actually are revealed that they are in a cult, and that's why they were in Mexico. 2 different characters mention that they're in a cult. At first, it's a character named Gina. She jokingly guesses that they're in a cult when they're playing a game, and she doesn't actually believe it. She's kidding, but it's funny because it ends up being true. And Will says it when he tries to confront everybody, and he's acting like, why is everyone acting like this is normal? There's not anything strange going on. So, like I said, I don't really consider that to be too much of a spoiler, but I guess it could be. Not really, in my opinion. So, to me, the main point of, well, the main spoiler, I guess, that I could give out is pretty much the ending, which is good. And it ends in, if anyone is familiar with, I'm sure a lot of you guys are, with Jim Jones and what he did with his cult, where basically he had a ton of people following him and he convinced them to sacrifice themselves, and they just drank this like Kool-Aid kind of thing that I don't know exactly what was in it that was fatal, but he convinced like a lot of people to drink this, and they all died, every single one of them. That's what they tried to do at the very end of this movie. At the dinner scene, they tried to get everyone to drink this, and only one person actually drank the Kool-Aid, quote unquote, and that was Gina. She drank a little bit of it, and Will had like a flashback and he had an epiphany. He realized what was going on, and he made everyone at the dinner table stop what they were doing. He was slapping like their glasses out of their hands, telling them not to drink it. And Gina, at first they thought he was insane. Gina was the only one that actually drank it. She ended up dying. She was foaming at the mouth and everything. He ended up being right. And it's also funny because there's something to be said for those movies where there's a main character that is catching on to something, and they're trying to convince the rest of the people in the movie that something is wrong and that they need to do something about it, and he finally gets through to them. Usually it's like, it could be annoying, and like I don't understand, like, you're watching this from an outsider perspective, and you're like, how do these people not know this is a cult? How do they not know this is wrong? But I think this movie actually does a good job of making this believable, because it's not just Will. It's not just like he doesn't know these people or nothing happened to him in the past, and he's just like, this is weird. Being that his son was killed and he's like going through it, every time he seems to have an outburst and he tries to confront them and he tries to get people to believe what he believes, and like a different character talks him down and is like, that's just their way of expressing it. We know you're going through this. It's a hard time for everybody. And Will is starting to believe that he's just crazy, that he's not actually right. But in the end, he is actually right. So, pretty much everyone dies except for Will, Kira, and one of their friends named Tom. that's like a small detail that I'm not really a huge fan of. I don't really understand. I don't know why he survived, why he lived, because he didn't seem to really have a whole lot of impact to that point. But I guess like a good way of keeping him in the story and surviving is the fact that people thought he was dead. So I guess it was a cool surprise to end up seeing that he was alive. But yeah. So The Invitation, there it is. That's like I said, I would give it a 4 out of 5. If you want to be technical, a high 4, I'd say like a 4.8. I hope you guys enjoyed this review. I'm going to try to have at least one video per week. It's going to be harder once school starts back up, but I'm going to try my best. They're not all going to be reviews of movies. I'm going to try to, get creative and I have some ideas of like a top 10 all-time list, or maybe like getting more specific into the list, like maybe my top 10 90s horror movies, or top 10 non-R rated ones, or maybe my top 10 least favorite. Or I could also recap the year, best and worst movies from 2019 and what we're expecting in 2020. So I'll catch you guys later. Have a good one.